Hello everyone and welcome to my channel Y&R Trends. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Big shock. Victor Newman, the ruthless and calculating titan of Genoa City, was seen behind the closed doors of his office, his expression unusually tense as the city's power dynamics quietly shifted beneath the surface, and nobody, not even his closest allies, could have predicted the storm brewing from the shadows. For the whispers that had started trickling through the corridors of Newman Enterprises hinted at a secret Victor had been guarding for years, one that had the potential to dismantle alliances, ruin careers, and upend the delicate balance of trust that had kept the Newman empire afloat. It all centered around Matt, whose network of contacts, investments, and discreet maneuvers in the tech and business sectors had suddenly drawn Victor's intense scrutiny, making Nick, Sharon, and even Adam wonder what could possibly have compelled the formidable patriarch to act with such secrecy, while outside, the press sensed a tremor, eager to sniff out the scandal that might be lurking behind the veneer of corporate success. And as Victor carefully manipulated the levers of information, the shadow of his intentions loomed over Matt, who had no idea that his recent projects, strategic acquisitions, and confidential communications were being quietly monitored, analyzed, and archived by Victor's most trusted operatives who were loyal not to the ideals of transparency or fairness, but to the unyielding will of a man who had built his empire on control, fear, and unmatched cunning. And as Matt celebrated what he thought were small victories, expanding his network, forging new connections, and gaining the admiration of young innovators, he remained blissfully unaware that Victor's hidden dossier contained detailed maps of every interaction, every partnership, and every secret negotiation Matt had undertaken. A revelation that could, if revealed, shatter not only professional relationships but deeply personal ones. For Victor had always known the fine line between power and exposure, and he understood the leverage that knowledge could provide, the kind that could bend even the most confident players to his will. And so he watched silently, calculating, waiting for the precise moment to strike, when Matt's network, already influential and growing, could be either co-opted into Victor's sprawling empire or, if needed, strategically dismantled to ensure that any rival ambitions were crushed before they could even take root, while Nick, sensing a shift in his father's behavior, tried to probe, but Victor's defenses were masterful, his words layered with ambiguity and his actions cloaked in plausible business decisions, making it nearly impossible to detect the true nature of his plan. And Sharon, ever perceptive but emotionally invested, felt a pang of unease whenever Victor called Matt into private meetings or subtly redirected conversations about new network expansions, and as the days turned into weeks, the tension escalated, with Matt beginning to notice inconsistencies in access permissions, sudden changes in data flow, and cryptic messages from employees who seemed caught between loyalty and fear, none daring to speak freely, for Victor's reputation for meticulous and sometimes ruthless control was well known, and as Adam, always one to seek leverage and uncover truths for his own complex motives, started noticing patterns too. He realized that Victor's secret wasn't merely a protective measure but a weapon, an instrument designed to manipulate, dominate, and ensure that Matt's network, potentially a source of autonomy and independence, remained under the invisible hand of the Newman empire. And as Chelsea caught wind of the tension, she worried about Matt, aware that the man she cared for might be walking unknowingly into a labyrinth of deception so intricate that even the cleverest minds could falter, while Victor, in the quiet of his office, reviewed charts, communications, and confidential reports, each a piece of a larger puzzle that only he could fully comprehend. And with each passing day, the suspense grew, with the citizens of Genoa City, fans of the young and the restless, and the watchers of Newman Enterprises all wondering when, how, and if the ultimate revelation would occur. For the secret Victor was hiding related to Matt's network was more than a simple oversight, more than corporate espionage, more than a minor scandal. It was a masterstroke in the making, a move that could redefine loyalties, fracture friendships, and ultimately expose the raw human emotions hidden behind the polished facades of ambition, desire, and power. And as the storyline unfolded, viewers were left on edge, imagining scenarios where trust was broken, alliances betrayed, and the fate of Matt's network, and perhaps Matt himself, hung precariously in the balance, all under the omnipresent, calculating gaze of Victor Newman, whose hidden agenda promised shocks, reversals, and jaw-dropping twists that only a man of his strategic genius could orchestrate, making it clear that in Genoa City secrets, especially those guarded by Victor, were never just secrets. They were the currency of influence, the instruments of control, and the sparks that could ignite a firestorm the likes of which the city had never seen before, leaving fans breathless, anticipating the moment when every hidden email, every coded message, every clandestine move, would converge into the explosive revelation of Victor's ultimate secret, a secret tied to Matt's network, a secret that, once revealed, would leave no character untouched, no relationship untested, and no viewer unshocked by the staggering audacity of Victor Newman's plan. A revelation that would echo through the halls of Newman Enterprises, the streets of Genoa City, and the hearts of fans worldwide, as the young and the restless delivered yet another unforgettable chapter of intrigue, deception, and the relentless pursuit of power, leaving everyone wondering just how far Victor would go, what he truly knew, and whether Matt's network would survive the shadow of the Empire's most formidable mind. Big shock. Victor Newman, the unyielding and ever-calculating patriarch of Genoa City, had once again cast his shadow over the city's power players, hiding a secret so explosive that it could destabilize the delicate balance of alliances, betrayals, and hidden agendas that had been meticulously woven over decades, and this time, the secret revolved around Matt, whose network of contacts, business ventures, and discreet influence had quietly grown into something Victor could not ignore. And as the whispers of this secret began to trickle through the halls of Newman Enterprises, it became increasingly clear that Victor's intentions were not mere oversight or cautious concern but part of a long-term strategy designed to maintain control over everything and everyone connected to Matt's network. And while Matt remained blissfully unaware of the magnitude of Victor's hidden plans, focusing instead on expanding his ventures, forging new partnerships, and building a reputation as a rising power in the business world, Victor's operatives had already begun collecting every piece of data, every email, every financial transaction, and every secret meeting, compiling them into a master dossier that could be used to manipulate, coerce, or even destroy should the need arise. And Nick, always the dutiful son yet increasingly suspicious of his father's maneuvers, noticed subtle shifts in Victor's demeanor, the faint glimmer of calculation behind his seemingly routine decisions, and the guarded way he spoke of Matt, prompting Nick to start probing, reaching out to old contacts, and attempting to trace the hidden lines of influence that Victor had been quietly threading for months, while Sharon, sensitive to emotional undercurrents and acutely aware of the tension in the Newman household, sensed that Matt, whom she had come to deeply trust and support, was being placed in a position where the stakes were far higher than he realized, and her concern grew with every ambiguous message Victor left, every meeting he arranged in secret, and every cryptic remark that hinted at layers of knowledge and control beyond Matt's comprehension. And Adam, ever opportunistic and always seeking leverage, began piecing together patterns, noticing inconsistencies in data access, unexpected changes in communications, and the sudden inexplicable loyalty shifts among employees. And as he connected these dots, he realized that Victor's secret was no ordinary family intrigue or corporate maneuver. It was a carefully orchestrated plan to assert dominance over Matt's entire network, to ensure that the younger man's growing influence would remain under the unchallenged shadow of Newman control, and Chelsea, who had been caught in the crossfire of multiple schemes and whose heart remained tied to Matt, became increasingly anxious, worried that he might be walking blindly into a web of manipulation that could compromise not only his career but their future together. And as Victor quietly monitored Matt's every move, he also began leveraging subtle psychological tactics, sending ambiguous messages, arranging chance encounters, and even manipulating financial trends to test the resilience, loyalty, and decision-making of everyone connected to Matt. While in the background, Genoa City's power dynamics shifted, with business rivals sensing opportunities, reporters sniffing out scandal, and longtime friends and enemies alike wondering who would emerge as the dominant force in the coming storm. And as Victor's plan unfolded, Matt began noticing small anomalies. Delays in email responses from trusted partners, sudden contract clauses that seemed out of place, and employees' strange hesitations when discussing future projects, all of which hinted at a force operating behind the scenes, an invisible hand guiding, nudging, and subtly controlling outcomes. And as Nick continued his investigation, he uncovered encrypted messages, disguised financial transactions, and patterns of influence that seemed impossible to trace. Yet the fingerprints of Victor's strategy were unmistakable, revealing a level of foresight and control that only a man of his experience and ruthlessness could maintain. while Sharon, increasingly worried, tried to warn Matt, but he, ever confident in his independence and judgment, brushed aside her concerns, unaware that the network he had painstakingly built could be quietly co-opted, manipulated, or even dismantled at Victor's discretion. And as tension mounted, Adam's suspicions grew into a full-blown investigation of his own, as he began leveraging his own network of allies, including Chelsea, to gather evidence, understand Victor's strategy, and possibly find a way to protect Matt while simultaneously positioning himself for potential gain. And as the storyline developed, the personal stakes intertwined with the professional ones, with Matt's reputation, ambitions, and relationships all hanging precariously in the balance, and the intricate web of secrecy extended further as employees who were loyal but fearful started to leak information, either intentionally or through inadvertent mistakes, sending ripples through the network that made the entire operation increasingly vulnerable to exposure. And Victor, sensing these subtle shifts, intensified his oversight, inserting additional safeguards, covert operatives, and psychological maneuvers to maintain his grip while keeping the secret meticulously hidden from those who might challenge him. And even as the drama escalated, Nick, driven by a mix of curiosity, responsibility, and a need to protect his family, dug deeper, consulting old friends, legal experts, and financial analysts, trying to decode the implications of Victor's secrecy, while Sharon balanced her growing concern for Matt with a determination to uncover the truth, finding herself navigating a maze of deceit, loyalty conflicts, and ethical dilemmas, all while Adam, whose motives were often conflicted, played a delicate game of observation, manipulation, and cautious alliance building. And as Chelsea became increasingly aware of the potential fallout, she began quietly supporting both Matt and Adam, attempting to safeguard their interests while contending with the emotional complexity of trust, love, and fear. And outside the immediate circle, Genoa City's social and business scenes reacted with ripples of speculation, gossip, and intrigue, as other influential figures sensed the underlying tension, subtle power shifts, and hidden maneuvers, all of which set the stage for potentially explosive confrontations, betrayals, and shocking revelations. And Victor, ever masterful, watched silently from the center of this storm, weighing each potential move, calculating risks, and determining precisely when and how to reveal or leverage the secret he had guarded so carefully, knowing full well that the revelation of his knowledge about Matt's network could simultaneously secure his empire, punish rivals, and manipulate allies. And as the days turned into weeks, the suspense escalated, with Matt beginning to suspect that something was amiss, noticing discrepancies in communications, unusual access permissions, and subtle behavioral changes among his colleagues, all while Victor maintained an outward appearance of normalcy, making his calculated machinations nearly invisible to all except those willing to see patterns in the chaos. And as the tension mounted, Chelsea's fears intensified, her internal conflict between protecting Matt and confronting Victor's hidden agenda creating an emotional storm that paralleled the external stakes. And Adam, ever opportunistic, considered how to use the emerging information to his advantage, not only to protect himself and Chelsea but also to gain leverage over both Victor and Matt, in a delicate dance of ethics, ambition, and survival. And as the storyline continued to unravel, other Genoa City residents, some unsuspecting, others deeply entwined in Newman enterprises, began to feel the subtle yet profound effects of Victor's secret, from shifting loyalties and strained friendships to surprising alliances and unexpected betrayals, and the narrative tension intensified with each passing scene, as viewers, fans, and the city itself remained on edge, wondering when the inevitable confrontation would occur, who would be caught in the fallout, and whether Matt's carefully constructed network could withstand the invisible but omnipresent force of Victor Newman's strategic genius, all while the intricacies of human emotion, ambition, and deception interwove to create a story that was as emotionally gripping as it was intellectually compelling, leaving no character untouched, no relationship untested, and no fan unaffected by the unfolding drama. And with each chapter, every revelation, subtle hint, and behind-the-scenes maneuver served as a testament to the ruthless intelligence and unrelenting ambition of Victor Newman, proving once again that in Genoa City, secrets were never merely secrets. They were instruments of power, leverage, and ultimate control, and the secret related to Matt's network was perhaps the most dangerous, dramatic, and game-changing revelation. Yet, destined to leave shockwaves that would resonate throughout Newman Enterprises, the personal lives of the characters, and the hearts of fans who had followed every twist, betrayal, and explosive revelation with rapt attention, proving once again that The Young and the Restless could deliver tension, drama, and shock on an epic scale. And as the season progressed, viewers would be forced to ask themselves who could be trusted, who was secretly manipulating events, and whether Matt's network, and by extension, the futures of Nick, Sharon, Adam, Chelsea, and all of Genoa City, would survive the calculating and hidden power of Victor Newman, whose genius lay not only in building an empire but in controlling the narrative, orchestrating the moves of others like pieces on a chessboard, and ensuring that when the final revelation came, it would be as devastating, shocking, and unforgettable as only a Newman secret could be, leaving everyone breathless, anticipating the moment when the intricate puzzle would finally reveal the full extent of Victor's plan, and the fallout from the secret about Matt's network would change the lives, loyalties, and destinies of everyone involved forever. As the suspense surrounding Victor Newman's hidden secret regarding Matt's network grew, the stakes in Genoa City became increasingly volatile, with every passing day intensifying the sense that something monumental was about to erupt, for Victor's strategic genius was not merely in holding knowledge, but in knowing precisely how to manipulate timing, perception, and emotion to ensure that when the revelation finally came, its impact would be devastating, carefully orchestrated, and impossible to ignore. And as Victor continued his quiet surveillance, monitoring not only Matt but also the ripple effects of his every decision, Nick found himself wrestling with questions about loyalty, trust, and family, torn between his instinct to confront his father and the need to protect Matt from the destructive potential of Victor's schemes, while Sharon, increasingly alarmed, struggled to maintain her composure, balancing the desire to shield Matt from harm with the harsh reality that Victor's reach extended far beyond what anyone could see. And Adam, who had long recognized the ruthless brilliance of Victor's manipulations, began contemplating how best to intervene, seeking ways to both protect the people he cared about and exploit the situation to his advantage, understanding that in Genoa City, power was rarely relinquished voluntarily, and secrets, especially those held by Victor Newman, were weapons as much as they were shields, capable of reshaping alliances and shattering lives with terrifying precision. And as Matt slowly began to sense that his network, the very foundation of his rising influence, might be compromised, subtle signs of interference became impossible to ignore, from mysteriously altered schedules and unexplained access denials to employees exhibiting signs of unease and hesitation, all indicating that Victor's shadow had already begun to stretch into every corner of Matt's world. And Chelsea, acutely aware of the danger, worked tirelessly behind the scenes, attempting to decode Victor's intentions, advising Matt cautiously, and balancing her protective instincts with the need to maintain trust, while Nick, increasingly convinced that inaction could be catastrophic, began collating evidence, reaching out to allies, and tracing financial and digital footprints in hopes of uncovering the full scope of Victor's secret. And as tensions escalated, even longtime associates of the Newman Empire began to sense a shift in the balance of power, with subtle signs of unrest rippling through the company and social circles alike, hinting that a storm of unprecedented magnitude was building. A storm that could engulf not only Matt and Victor but every character whose life intersected with the Newman legacy. And as viewers watched, the drama unfolded layer by layer, revealing the fragility of relationships, the volatility of ambition, and the profound emotional consequences of secrets carefully concealed. And as Victor weighed the optimal moment to deploy his knowledge of Matt's network, he considered not only the immediate tactical advantage but also the long-term ramifications on loyalty, reputation, and control, knowing that one misstep could jeopardize years of planning, while simultaneously preparing contingencies that would allow him to retain dominance regardless of how events played out. And as Nick confronted his own moral dilemma, questioning whether exposing Victor's plans would protect Matt or merely escalate the conflict, Sharon wrestled with fear and frustration, desperate to prevent the potential collapse of trust between the people she cared about, and Adam strategized in real time, calculating every potential outcome, aware that the consequences of failure could be catastrophic for everyone involved. And as the storyline progressed, additional layers of tension emerged, with hidden alliances forming, clandestine meetings taking place, and previously dormant rivalries resurfacing, all of which threatened to intensify the already volatile situation, while Matt, caught between ambition and loyalty, began questioning the motives of those around him, noticing patterns and inconsistencies that suggested manipulation and hidden agendas. yet unable to pinpoint the orchestrator behind the unfolding events, and as the suspense reached a fever pitch, Chelsea's efforts to safeguard both Matt and herself became increasingly critical, her own emotions and relationships entangled in the complex web of deceit and power, with every decision carrying potentially irreversible consequences. And as the residents of Genoa City, friends, family, and business associates alike, became unwitting players in Victor's master plan, the tension mounted, each revelation, rumor, and secret interaction adding fuel to the fire, while Victor, ever patient and calculating, maintained an outward calm, allowing the anxiety, speculation, and uncertainty to build among those who might seek to challenge him, thereby maximizing the psychological and strategic advantage of his hidden knowledge. And as Nick and Adam continued their parallel investigations, attempting to unravel the mystery without alerting Victor, they uncovered subtle clues pointing to a meticulously constructed web of influence, manipulation, and surveillance, evidence of a man who understood not only business and power but also human nature, and whose strategic genius allowed him to operate several steps ahead of everyone else, while Sharon and Chelsea worked tirelessly to protect Matt, guiding him cautiously, attempting to anticipate Victor's moves, and maintaining a delicate balance between honesty, warning, and concealment. And as the tension built toward a climax, Matt's network itself began to show signs of strain, with partnerships, communications, and projects disrupted in ways that hinted at a masterful manipulation, prompting further anxiety among those closest to him. And as fans watched each twist and turn, they were drawn deeper into a story that wove together ambition, love, loyalty, and betrayal, highlighting the human cost of power and the extraordinary lengths one man could go to preserve his dominance. And as the narrative continued, Victor's secret regarding Matt's network became not just a plot device but a symbol of the intricate, high-stakes world of Genoa City, where trust was fragile, ambition was relentless, and the consequences of knowledge, manipulation, and secrecy could ripple through lives in unexpected, often devastating ways. And as the suspense reached its apex, viewers were left anticipating not only the revelation of Victor's plan but also the cascading impact it would have on Matt, Nick, Sharon, Adam, Chelsea, and everyone connected to the Newman empire. Knowing that in this world every secret, every hidden maneuver, and every calculated move could transform alliances, upend lives, and ultimately determine who would survive, who would fall, and who would emerge stronger, all under the ever-watchful, ever-calculating gaze of Victor Newman, whose hidden mastery over Matt's network and the people entwined in it promised a shocking, unforgettable, and emotionally charged series of revelations that would resonate long after the final twist, proving once again that in Genoa City, secrets were never mere secrets. They were instruments of power, leverage, and destiny, and Victor's secret, tied to Matt's network, was perhaps the most dangerous, dramatic, and game-changing revelation yet, capable of reshaping lives, careers, and relationships in ways no one could have anticipated, leaving fans breathless, captivated, and eagerly anticipating every next move in this epic saga of intrigue, ambition, and suspense.